The victory horns are sounding for Jailton Almeida. Gets a takedown in about 30 seconds of the main event of UFC Charlotte. Worked his way into full mount, and then at the snap of a finger, took the back, rear naked choke. Easy peasy, like butter. Jailton Almeida wins another fight. Gets a first-round submission, becomes the first fighter to ever submit Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And those who may have been on the fence on whether or not they should jump on the Jailton Almeida hype train, I would say it's all aboard right now. And to welcome you to the UFC Charlotte post-fight show here on MMAfighting.com. I am Mike Ack, being joined by Mr. No Gray Area, Jed Meshew. I think Jed's probably going to have some things to say, some takes, as he typically does.
I got takes tonight, Mike. I got takes. And I got takes. If you're just now getting on the Jailton Almeida hype train, what are you do? This is the win. This is the one. But we'll get into that.
Yes. And maybe the new baddest stash in MMA. I had to take multiple peeks at my best friend because I did not notice this. The mustache wearing Prince of Positivity, Alexander K. Lee. Pull out the mustache comb. Let's see. Twirl it around. Look at that bad boy.
Listen, I want to apologize to America. There it is. Don't forget this.
Look at that.
A little bit of this. Maybe a little bit of here, a little bit of that there. Listen, I forgot I had to be on camera today. I don't have to shave very often, so it's normally not even something I think about. So I apologize to America. You are not meant to see me like this. I'll get it together. I swear. No, someone in the comments said, keep it going. This is it. It's not. This is it. Trust me.
You're not going to find this type of gold on the ESPN Plus post-fight shows.
Boy,
You have come to the right place. You have come to the right place. A lot has happened today. I don't even want to talk about the Misfits boxing stuff because that'll make me cry because the great Salt Poppy has lost a fight, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about a man who didn't lose a fight.
He's going to be better. He's going to be better. You win or you learn. Look at old Johnny Walker out there just learning a lot, and that Salt Poppy can be one of those guys too.
Well, we'll talk about Johnny Walker in a moment. Let's talk about Jailton Almeida, AK, because look, no website on the planet has hyped up Jailton Almeida more than MMAfighting.com. He's been our heavyweight and light heavyweight sort of golden darling, been shoving his name down people's throats for months and months and months, and he gets this main event spot at UFC Charlotte, dispatches Jairzinho Rozenstruik in the first round, was effortless. I mean, he missed one takedown attempt, but got it on the second, and then that was it. It was just a matter of time before he got to mount and then easily tapped him out. I mean, what can you say about the man, AK? What could you say about Jailton Almeida? I believe that's how Johnny and Nick pronounce it, Jailton Almeida. But to us, might be the next heavyweight champion of the world.
I just did a poll, Mike. I need to hear the voice of the people. Literally, as you asked me the question, I threw this up. Where do you rank Jailton Almeida at heavyweight after tonight? And the options are number one contender. Really, it should just be two options. No, that's three options. Number one contender, top 5, or top 10. I put other as well, but I'd be shocked if anyone didn't rank him in the top 10 at this point. He was already, by the way, in the MMA Fighting Global Rankings, number 9. He was actually he was higher than Jairzinho. I think in the official the UFC rankings, I believe I'm pretty sure it was flipped, but we had Jailton Almeida at 9. We have Rozenstruik at 13. So I don't know how much it'll change. We should let people know that we did kind of have we've had quite a bit of discussion before the show started. Normally when we're doing our MMA Fighting rankings, we don't like to influence each other, but obviously it's a live debate. Again, we're doing a recap. So we're all kind of thinking, how high can he go? I haven't really settled on where he's going to land yet, but listen, we've been saying it. He looks like a guy who could be champion. The competition wasn't there. I get it. The first 4 guys he beat, whatever, with respect to the glorious Parker Porter and, of course, the Pleasure Man and Tantor Kali, great, fantastic fighters, not really ranked, maybe not super notable names. Jairzinho has been a knockout threat, ranked guy, takes him out so easily. I mean, in a way that people expected, but still so easily. his resume probably needs more work, but the optics of his performances are just unbelievable. I say this all the time when we talk about Almeida fights. He captures the imagination. He captures the imagination. Could he beat John Jones? I don't know. Probably not. Probably not. Jones would be a 3-1, 4-1 favorite, I would think. But man, I think people were wondering would like to see that fight now. They'd like to see what happened if that fight went to the ground. Where we go. That's where I am with it anyway. I am dazzled, Mike, by the Jailton Almeida story so far.
Jed, AK is using the word dazzled. What word would you use to describe what you saw today, this afternoon? It's nice to say this afternoon. And just this whole run to get to where he's at right now. Main event Jailton, gets it done in quick fashion. Had no name to call out, but you know what? He didn't need one because he's just that dude right now.
He called out Tai Tuivasa.
He did? When?
In the post-fight speech, he said, "I'd like to fight another." Through the translator, he said, "I'd like to fight another, dude who can supposedly knock me out." And he may not have specifically called out Tai Tuivasa, but the name Tai Tuivasa was said. I couldn't quite tell whether it was a specific "I want Tai Tuivasa" or it was a more general, because of the tenor of the rest of the conversation. They said that Jairzinho Rozenstruik could knock me out. I want another dude like that, like Tai Tuivasa. But the name Tai Tuivasa was definitely mentioned in that post-fight speech.
Fair enough. Is that the fight though? Because I don't think it's the fight.
I think it's a fun fight. I think I know where you're going to head, but y'all will just have to listen on to the next one to get Mike's take on this, I suspect. But I think it's fine because Ty's he's probably top 5 in the UFC's heavyweight rankings right now, and they're not going to immediately give him a title shot off of this one. They're going to make him win one more, but a lot of the other people are busy. I think a Tai Tuivasa fight is fine from a ranking standpoint. It's the same issue that this fight had. And so you asked me how I would describe it, and I'll say impressive, because there's no other word I think that fits here for what Jailton Almeida did tonight. I kind of don't care about it. We were talking about it in pre-production or whatever. It's like, that was very expected, and it's a hard thing to levy on a guy, right? To go out and do what's expected when the expectation is so high, and he continues doing it. So you got to give him credit for that, right? But it's also not one where I'm like, I didn't learn anything new, and the Tai Tuivasa fight would be the same. I won't learn anything new, because I'm pretty sure he'll just do the exact same things. But at some point, it doesn't matter if I learn new things if he continues to do the same stuff versus an increasing level of opposition, even if the skill sets remain the same or whatever. It's like Hamzat. It's like, frankly, the initial run of Francis Ngannou, where he just kept obliterating everybody the first time you hit him. At some point, you are where your resume says you are, and who Jailton's resume says he is one of the best guys in this division, if not, the best guy in 2 divisions. We could talk about his light heavyweight potential moving forward. So super impressive. The stat, it's the big stat. It's the stat that was all about Hamzat during his run. Jailton has fought 5 times in the UFC. 2 significant strikes have been landed against him. I forget who tweeted it, so I apologize, but whoever it did, good work. That's a miracle. That it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's fighting the 4 of us. It is a miracle to fight other people in a cage professionally, and among 5 of them, you get hit twice. 3 people literally don't hit you at all is a friggin' miracle. So you can't do anything but take away wow, that is an incredibly impressive feat. I don't know if he's a future champion, but he got a lot of hallmarks of a dude who could hold the belt in the near future.
Yes, 2 significant strikes, 9 total strikes, 9 over 5 fights, 9 total strikes. And those include strikes off of your back when you're just landing stuff. He's been hit 9 times. Jairzinho Rozenstruik hit him 0 times. So in his last 4 fights, Paca Porter, the Pleasure Man, Shamil Abdurakhimov, and Jairzinho Rozenstruik, he's been hit with 2 total strikes in his last 4 fights. That's insanity. And it's just incredible numbers.
It's just AK, 5. Danilo Marquez didn't hit him either.
And Danilo Marquez had no strikes. And Nasrudinov hit him 7 times. So that that accumulates.
Who knew that would be the best of the bunch? I think we got to give Nasrudin. I think we got to give him a contract, right? This man put 7 hands on Jailton Almeida. Top 10 heavyweights aren't doing that. Get Nasruddin a contract. That's my new corner. This man deserves his chance.
You know, it's funny though. We talked about it on a lot on the preview show, and Jed, you're kind of saying this. Like, it's unfortunate we just can't learn more about Jailton because he's so good at doing the damn thing, and the guys he's fought so far are poor at stopping him. I shouldn't even say they're poor. He's so good. I don't even want to say like it's just because he's facing guys necessarily who have bad.
Some of them were in fact like, poor at stopping him.
Sure,
and there's a reasonable argument that Jairzinho is also poor at stopping it.
That's like saying, oh, people couldn't get out of the way of Francis Ngannou's punches or something, and that they suck. Like everyone's because now we're getting to the bad MMA fan thing of like, well, everyone just sucks. Like everyone sucks because they got dominated or. But
it is like, heavyweight, so everyone does suck. Okay?
Come on, Jed. I will not go that far. I still think highly of the big boy division, but yeah, we didn't learn anything about striking. One of my things in my predictions was like I would love to see like if one of these takedowns gets stuff, and just to see like his striking defense. I don't want to see him going out there getting into boxing matches. Hashtag keep the martial arts apart. I don't want to see that. But I would love to see like, oh, well, now does he deal with a guy who can put his lights out with one shot, who has like really good kickboxing, like who could really take him out. We did not see any of that. And that's fine. That's not Almeida. If you're Almeida, you're not there to mess around. Because listen, we criticized Curtis Blades for the same thing, right? We were crappy on Curtis Blades for trying to show off his boxing against Sergey Pavlovich, and all we did was mock him. So I'm not going to criticize Almeida again for doing the damn thing he does so well. If other people can't stop it, that's great. My only thing is I think for any of us to place him like way, 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 way higher without, just beating one of the names ahead of him is like, we'd like to see a cardio as well. I don't know if this guy can fight past the second round. I think he has one fight that's gone to a decision in his entire career. He lost it. I confess I have not watched this fight. So if this fight between him and Bruno Assis from January 2018 is out there, I may have to watch that. I just want to know what it looks like to see him go 15 minutes. But yeah, we don't know. And it does. I know it's heavyweight. Most of these fights end in finishes anyway. So that might be one of the reasons he moved up. He's well suited for it. But I don't know. Eventually he's going to have to face Asilo Gan. What if he faces Asilo Gan? Well, I guess his takedown defense wasn't super great either, but I guess, but then we're not, Almeida's not John Jones, right? Or is he? But yeah, we didn't learn a lot, but for me, just seeing him take out a top, like a top ranked, top 10 guy, top 10 in the UFC anyway, top 13 in our rankings, means a lot. It means a lot. So I feel like I have to move him up in that sense because this is a test he could have failed on paper. Very favorable matchup. He was, I think, minus 500, probably could have been even higher. But yeah, I think there's some value in at least in winning fights that you're expected to against quality competition.
Yeah, and when you have fights like this, there's really not much you can really add to it. So I guess we'll do this because AK and I will do our matchmaking. We're actually recording it later today. But Jed, by this time next year, will Jailton Almeida have already fought for the belt or at least have his title fight booked by this time next year in the heavyweight division?
He won't have fought for the belt. I will say he will have an interim title fight booked. I don't think it'll be full. I have been stalwartly on the corner that John Jones is not going to actually retire after he beats Stipe. I just think he'll set aside, maybe take some time and decide if he wants to fight. And I suspect that what's going to end up happening is Jailton's going to fight somebody. Maybe it is Tai Tuivasa, maybe that's the fight he gets, sometime in the fall. And then by the end of this year, we're looking at Jailton versus Sergey Pavlovich for the interim heavyweight title. And then if John Jones decides he wants to keep fighting, he'll fight the winner of that to unify the belt. Or if he just decides to hang it up, then it will be, that the winner of that fight will be elevated. So I'll say it will be booked. An interim title fight will be booked by the end of the year for Jailton.
AK, by this time next year, where are we at with Jailton and his title aspirations?
By this time next year, he's the heavyweight champion. He's won a vacant title. I'm gonna go say I do agree that you can't really take John Jones at his. I won't say word. He didn't really say he was going to do it, but at his suggestion that it's Stipe and then he's out. But that would make a lot of sense for him. So I'm going to say hopefully not an interim situation because that is likely what's going to happen if he does do the beat Stipe and then just goes to dip and chill out for 6, 7, 8 months or wherever he's going to go after that fight, while he waits for a refreshing opponent, or to see if the UFC can bring back Francis Ngannou, which I don't know. We'll find out what's next for Francis apparently on Tuesday, May 16th, Tuesday. So that's
Correct.
exciting. But I assume it's not a return to the UFC, and we won't hear about that for some time. So, but he will have some sort of title around his waist. He will have a title around his waist, whether it's vacant, whether it's interim. I don't think there's anyone in the world who can beat him besides John Jones. I'm that at heavyweight anyway. At heavyweight, I am that blown away by what I've seen from Almeida so far. He's freakishly strong. Jed, we talk all the time about athleticism, and to be a plus athlete at heavyweight is always a bonus. And then to be insanely strong when you're, jiu-jitsu is your specialty. I said it in our Slack, I haven't seen someone pass so confidently and so aggressively and so inevitably since Damian Maia. I think Damian Maia was the last guy. He gets people down. It's you're cooked. And so this guy's making people look.
I don't know that he's strong. I mean, he might be
Almeida?
strong. Yeah, I mean, he might be strong.
I think he is.
None of his game has looked to me like, oh, he's oppressively strong. It's just he's really good at understanding position and his.
I think it's both. But I think it's both though. I think that's what scares me.
I'm not sure that it's both. I think it's this because I think at light heavyweight he would be oppressively strong. I don't think that nothing of what I've seen has been they can't match his physicality in there. He's quicker. He's got good athleticism. It's positional dominance. It's understanding what he is doing and where he's going and being ahead. I mean, credit to Jairzinho Rozenstruik. He largely did a pretty good job of defense early on, particularly considering how much time he had to survive on the bottom. But after Almeida said it in his post fight. It's he sort of initially was able to kind of fend me off and fight the hand grips and keep half guard. But then I just sort of shifted my approach, and you saw it when he stopped trying to move a pass directly into mount and instead got Rozenstruik up against the cage and did a pass to opposite half. As soon as he did that, the fight was over. Casey and I talked about it offline. It's as soon as he did that, then Rozenstruik panicked, and none of that was a power play from him. It was just positional play. I am not at all, and I could be wrong. We haven't seen enough of it, but nothing that I've seen has been oh, he's going to go in there and manhandle Curtis Blades or whatever. He may beat them dominantly, but it won't just be bro, I got Habib's strength or whatever.
I was waiting for you to drop the name.
I said light heavyweight. Light heavyweight, that could be a whole different story because, just looking at that man, if he gets in an over-under grip against, Anthony Smith, I think Anthony Smith's going for a ride. I just don't think that the same level of power is kind of commensurate at heavyweight.
I was waiting
to be wrong.
Yeah, I was waiting for the Khabib mention because he's always your example of a guy who is, in addition to being obviously an amazing wrestler,
dumb athlete, and overall, stupidly strong.
An incredible athlete, and maybe the strongest guy at 155 pounds we've ever seen. He's just, but I do think Almeida. I think he might be there. I agree. You're right. It would make more sense to say that at light heavyweight, but I think even among heavyweights, I think he's one of the stronger guys. The technique is unquestionable, but I think having the technique in addition to his he is just. I think he's so strong. And again, that's I think that goes a long way, but. We will see. Like we said, that is one of the, one of the things about tonight was Rozenstruik is a quality opponent, but just not a guy who helped us answer a lot of questions about what Almeida's ceiling is. If you were super hype on Almeida before this fight, you're super hype still. If you thought he's still has more work to do before this fight, you probably still think he has more work to do. That's where my thinking is. Right now, people in the poll, 48% saying he's top 5. 33% top 10.
Correct.
Only 18% saying number one contender, which is I guess makes sense with the way Pavlovich has been, and so only 18%. People aren't quite.
You can't give you couldn't give Almeida a title fight over Pavlovich at this point in time, even if there's a reasonable argument that Almeida would beat Pavlovich in a fight. Pavlovich is number one contender with the bullet. So, but
yeah,
those two dudes are going to fight at some point, and we'll get to see it out.
Yeah. At worst, Jailton Almeida is fighting Tai Tuivasa or Cyril Gane next. And at best, he's fighting Sergey Pavlovich for some sort of interim or vacant title. One of those three things is going to happen. He ain't going to fight Curtis Blades next. There's no way that's happening.
It's so
it's either
smart of him.
Tai Tuivasa. It's so smart of him. It's either
so
Tai Tuivasa.
One dude in this weight class is a problem for him potentially.
Yeah, Tai Tuivasa. Yeah. He's probably a minus 600 favorite in that fight.
Yeah, listen, knowing the way Curtis fights,
closer.
For you guys know Curtis, though, knowing the way Curtis fights, he'd probably be like, listen, I want to show my striking against Pavlovich. I got to show my jiu-jitsu off my back again. He'd probably pull guard on Almeida and see.
Might.
Right? We don't know with him. We don't know.
That's the thing. That's the thing, okay, when you're like, well, we haven't learned anything, and it's very true. The problem is it doesn't matter because there are like 3 people who are good at fighting this weight class. So like look at the UFC's heavyweight rankings right now. Outside of how good Jailton Almeida has looked, like outside of he hasn't been hit at all. If you just took the game that you know he is beating everyone convincingly until maybe Tom Aspinall is an interesting fight. Curtis Blades is probably a tough one. Stipe could theoretically be interesting, but Stipe will never fight him. And then Sergey. And I guess Cyril Gane, but I think I know how that fight goes, given Cyril Gane's ability to stop takedowns. So, like, there's just nobody here for him with this particular set of skills is really well positioned in this weight class right now.
Jailton Almeida is one of the 4 performance bonus winners of UFC Shower. We're wondering on the People's Pre-Fight Show how the bonus structure was going to work. We had 4 performance bonuses, gentlemen. Almeida was 1. Ian Machado Garry, who I'm sure we're going to talk about, is number 2. Carlos Ulberg, number 3. And Matt Brown's number 4. There are your 4 performance bonuses for UFC.
I also saw, I think Damon Martin, our wonderful colleague, posted that Dana White said he's going to give Brian Battle $50K even though he missed weight too. So kind of 5 performance bonuses.
And Alex Morono isn't getting a bonus. What the hell is this all about?
I'm not in charge
Alex
of the
makes
UFC,
weight.
guys.
Wow.
I don't make the rules.
Alex makes weight. Alex Morono makes weight like a professional. Gets the gilly choke of a guy against Tim Means. Gets a big finish and no bonus for him. But Brian Battle gets a bonus. Get out of here.
I'm willing to say Brian Battle couldn't get the bonus because that was cool. Like, he missed weight. That's bad. That was cool.
This is just a reminder. The post-fight bonus system is stupid. It's either one, we always say whatever, pay the fighters more. That's the whole thing. Just reward every finish. Just reward every finish with $50,000. Then you have the money for it. Just do it. Otherwise, you're doing this arbitrary guy who misses weight gets it, and guy who makes weight doesn't get it, and he's the only guy who got a finish and doesn't get one. Like, that's so what? How is that? That's not. Oh, I did Tynero Lisboa. I guess that's fine. But and then she would get left out.
He's the only guy who didn't get one.
He's
the only guy who didn't get one.
This is silly. This is so silly. Just give them all 50 G's then. If you're going to give Brian Battle one, unless I like Brian Battle, but you missed weight by 2 pounds. I mean, you missed weight by 1 pound. I don't like. There has to be some penalty. He also didn't apologize for missing weight in the post-fight speech, which is one of my biggest pet peeves. If you miss weight, the first thing you should say is, after you thank Jesus for helping you punch someone in the face, the next thing you should do is say, "I'm sorry, I missed weight." Okay.
Look, everyone knows Jesus doesn't help you make weight, but he does help you cause harm to other people.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus is all about.
He's very invested in it. Yeah.
Well, there's a man who did not get a bonus on the main card. His name was Johnny Walker. He defeated Anthony Smith. Pretty clear-cut win. I don't think anybody at the final horn was like, "Oh yeah, Anthony Smith won that fight," but saw some 29-28s. I scored a 29-28 for Johnny Walker. If you scored 30-27, I ain't arguing with you. That's a fine scorecard as well. But Johnny Walker clearly wins this fight. So, Jed, let me ask you. On our Slack channel, this was kind of a contentious fight in the way some people viewed it. I think you and I are kind of on the same page on how this thing played out. On how this all played out.
It was more contentious until the 3rd round. Heading into the 3rd round is when there was dialogue going on. Then the 3rd round sort of took a lot of that away, I feel like.
So this is an intriguing matchup. The light heavyweight division is kind of a mess right now. We have Jamal Hill as the champion. We don't know when year he's coming back. We don't know who Jamal Hill is going to fight next. We felt like this fight may not determine the next challenger for the title, but at least someone's going to take a very big step in that direction. How do you grade Johnny Walker's performance against Anthony Smith today?
Oh, B, maybe C plus, somewhere between C plus and B. Maybe B minus is where we're supposed to settle. Look, like he won, and that's the most. It's always the most important thing. Not only did he won very cleanly. Like there's not an argument he lost it, and he was never really in danger of anything in that fight. And those are all very important things. Um, I left that fight thinking nobody, whoever the light heavyweight champion will be when all the dust settles, is not losing sleep about Johnny Walker, which is maybe this feels bad because Johnny Walker should be someone who you can see winning a fight because that's how he came into the UFC. When he is doing Johnny Walker things, he is dynamic and exciting and incredibly dangerous. And he's maybe in the middle of a transition period to try and be a little bit more constructive with that sort of dynamism and not totally balls to the wall nutcase about it. And then that's how he also loses fights. And it puts him in a really weird space where I will be very frank. I think Anthony Smith looked real bad tonight. Some of that obviously is Johnny Walker making him look bad. I also thought that he just looked bad. And coming off a long injury, they went to at length to explain the personal issues he's been struggling with. Frankly, the fact that he's been in the game for a long time, he's got like 60 fights or something insane. Like, I think Anthony Smith is probably not the best version of him. And so I would have liked to see a little bit more from Johnny Walker, frankly. He had Smith hurt severely twice in that first round and couldn't really back it up. He almost finished him in the third with the leg kicks and sort of Smith. DC said it, and I thought DC was just awful on commentary tonight, but I did agree with him at the end where he was like, Johnny Walker just needs to land one thing and Smith's ready to go. And Walker kind of didn't really do that. So I think Casey is like big on this being a developmental and a good fight for Johnny Walker, and I can see the argument for it. I'm not sure that I see it that way. Um, Time will end up telling. But for me, good performance, not one that makes me think this dude's ever winning a title.
AKA, your thoughts on this? What would you grade his
Well,
performance?
listen,
Was this more of a wow, Johnny Walker has leveled up
I
to a whole new place, or is this more about maybe Anthony Smith just isn't that guy anymore?
I would love to share my thoughts on this fight, but he did invoke the name of producer Casey, who I know felt very strongly in a positive way about this fight. So let me quickly say that I'm for it. I'd give maybe a slightly higher grade. I might go like B plus. You could go a little further. I understand if you wanted to reserve a higher grade for, if he'd managed to finish the fight, but it was a nice performance. I said in my predictions, I do feel like he's kind of gelling with the whole SBG thing. I think there was like a moment of learning for both sides. Again, this is purely speculation. I don't know. He's a really talented guy. He was winning fights before he was with SBG. He's winning fights now. Maybe it's just his talent shining through, and it's just a coincidence. But I'll give the move some sort of credit. And say that they're kind of on the same page now because these are good wins. Anthony Smith, Paul Craig, back-to-back, very good. Jan Kuchelab is a bit of a wild card, but he took care of business there, first round submission. So Johnny Walker's looked really great. I don't know how close he is to a title shot now, but he was so intriguing when he first came to the UFC. People forget there was all that, man, is he on his way to challenging John Jones talk? And then he just fell flat in a couple of fights. I don't know what his ceiling is now. I don't know if this raises it back to that level, or if it never should have, gone too far from that before. If the people were always believing in Johnny Walker, but I thought that this performance night, going the distance with a one-time title challenger in Anthony Smith, advanced in MMA years as he may be, was a net positive. But I would love to hear, Casey speak on it a bit as well if he wants to pop in.
I'll pop in later. You guys talk.
All right.
We'll wait for some questions.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm probably in between the two of you. Probably more towards where Jed's at, because I literally put in our Slack channel. Jamal Hill is not losing an ounce of sleep over this fight, not just because of Johnny Walker, but Anthony Smith as well. There was not he didn't come out of any of those rounds being like, uh-oh, I might have to fight one of these guys at some point. And we've already seen what happened when Jamal Hill fought Johnny Walker. Jamal Hill has leveled up too. So I think that's just a horrendous matchup for Johnny Walker. And I just feel like Anthony Smith's just kind of on the 16th tee box right now in the golf game of his fighting career. It's not a bad place to be. You can still put it on the green and have a nice performance and, get a couple of bars, but
I thought he shanked one off the 18th tee box, considering he had his gloves in his hands at the post fight. Looked like we had a real opportunity to be done with Anthony Smith right there. So we may end up being. I know he walked off, but dude, that was his 60th fight or some absurd number. Been doing this a long time.
Yeah. He put out some sort of statement on Instagram, I believe, right? Just saying he's going to do something. Yeah, just say I'm going to do some kind of addressing. I think he's well aware of what happened. Like everyone was talking about it right after. Just congrats. What does it say? Great game plan, great composure. Oh, okay. The caption says, "I have a lot of reflecting and thinking to do. Thanks to everyone who is and still are sticking by me." So he didn't say he's not retiring, but he's certainly not doing it tonight.
He's going to do one more. He's going to do one more because he's got 54 fights.
Sure.
So he can he can finish on 55. It's a good number. He can get a home. Maybe they go to Nebraska, for a fight night, and he can get a retirement one. And it's not like he's on the broadcast all the time. He's got other stuff going on, and he's never fighting for a title again. So he's done it all.
If he's on the schedule for the MMA Hour on Monday, I'm just saying there's a chance we may hear a retirement. I'm just saying.
Yeah, look, if there's someone asked me, and I know this is a question on BTL when I wasn't there and you were hosting, like what fighter or something would you like to see like a documentary on from like the beginning to the end? Anthony Smith's career would be a damn good one. I would love to watch that, to see his regional struggles getting to the UFC, getting ousted from the UFC, the regional struggles carrying on, getting back to the UFC, getting to a title fight, losing, all these weird injuries and everything he's gone through along the way to get to this point. And he's still in the title picture. Like he entered tonight still in the title picture after everything this guy went through. It would just be a compelling doc or a 30 for 30 to watch. And I salute Anthony Smith, big fan of his. And he's going to have a great career in the sport outside of the octagon. He's going to be a color commentator. He's going to be great when he finally gets that opportunity to have the headset on, sitting cage side. He's going to be excellent at it. He's great on the desk. He's going to do just fine.
You didn't even mention his most impressive accomplishment, which is somehow being as successful as he is, despite being the most creative fighter that has ever existed. His name is Anthony Smith, and he looks like the template on a UFC game for like random light heavyweight or whatever. And yet somehow, look at him. He's been great. Good for you.
Yes. Just a great guy. This is a guy who a long time ago couldn't even get he got big time by Derek Brunson and never got over it because Derek Brunson big timed him in an elevator, and Anthony Smith's goal was fight him just so he could never let Derek Brunson forget that he big timed
retirement
him.
Retirement fight right there.
That might be a great idea. Yes.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Or bring back Luke Rockhold. Or you can bring back Luke Rockhold and do that.
Yeah,
I know Luke doesn't want to do bare knuckle anymore. Just come back for one more UFC fight. Nebraska, we're good.
That would work out too. And for Johnny Walker, I think we kind of know where he's going. It's a good win. It's fine. He's not going to get him a title shot. He's not going to jump over a whole bunch of names. But he's probably going to fight Magomed Ankalaev next, and it probably isn't going to go too well for him. But we'll see what happens.
Might be awful. That fight might be really, really bad.
I just don't know what else you do with him. He ain't getting the title shot.
I think the fight makes sense. I'm just saying we might be getting Walker Santos 2 of just a staring contest. That might be a real tough hang.
Yep. Ian Machado Garry, what a performance. This was the most intriguing fight of the weekend.
Called his shot.
Wow. He did an interview with the great Pete Carroll and said, look, I'm going to kick this dude right in the face, and anything else, something, I'm paraphrasing, but if it ends in any other way,
it's a right high kick. Yeah, right high kick.
And he did it. Right high kick, drilled D-Rod, and he landed that right high kick a few different times. Finally got him, and then just pounced on a massive win. He's going to be a ranked fighter come Tuesday when the new UFC rankings come in. He might be a ranked fighter in the MMA Fighting Global rankings during the next cycle. We shall see. But damn, Jed, Ian Machado Garry didn't come to Charlotte to mess around at all. Gets a big fight. He was a massive favorite. And boy, did he deliver. Man called his shot and came through. Talk about that. This is an A performance, right? If Johnny Walker's a B minus, Ian Garry is a freaking A. Yeah, right.
A plus. A plus. I mean, he did everything perfect. Called his shot, delivered on his shot. Solid post fight speech. I know that you have some issues with it that I'm sure you'll get into and not know, but I largely doesn't bother me. And the rest of his post fight speech was good. Charming, young kid, not bad, easy on the eyes. Looks great getting off the bus. Can fight his ass off. This guy is a star. This guy is the best hope for a star in this weight class. I mean, I don't think he's Shavkat Rakhmonov as far as quality, but Shavkat doesn't speak English really, so that's like a limiting factor for certainly the UFC promotional apparatus. Ian Gary's the dude at 170 that they need to be putting the muscle behind, and I think you're going to see it. I think they gave him this spot on ABC to do that, to see. And we talked about beforehand that I loved this fight. I thought it was really good matchmaking because D-Rod was a clear step up for him, a winnable fight, but one that could really test his level, see what we can expect from him. And apparently what we can expect is awesome. So let's start cooking. Let's get this man into the top 10. I don't care if it's Neil Magny or somebody else. I don't know who off the top 10, like off the top of my head, who at that range makes sense for him in the UFC, but pick a name. Doesn't really matter. Let's just start making fun things happen with this dude.
AK, what did you think? Were you surprised by this? Did it stun you? Was this expected from Ian Garry in your eyes at all?
Let me just say, you guys mentioned the great Pizza Carroll. People, go to your social media whenever you hear this. He just tweeted out a head kick finish of Ian Garry's from before the UFC from Cage Warriors. I believe this is the Rastam Akman knockout, and you guys can see kind of he was previewing what was to come. So again, shout out to Pizza. I'm so impressed. I had picked Dan Rodriguez to win. I had made some bold upset picks on this because I thought the odds were a little bit wild. Garry entered this one about minus 300. I'm not sure what it settled at, but hovering around a 3-1 favorite. And I know Rodriguez coming off a loss. I know he's a bit up there as far as age and mileage. So people saw this as a step up fight. Which it is on paper. I just didn't think it's a step up that Machado Garry was necessarily going to win in such spectacular fashion. I could have seen him winning like a convincing decision, maybe a later finish, but to, like you said, call his shot, to land one of his signature moves, again, against a reputable guy. I think someone not quite in our top 15 anymore, but right around that top 20 area. He's kind of been bouncing in and out of the rankings, depending who he's fought. To pull that off was so awesome. And you need these finishes. We always talk about when you're building up your reel, when you're building up this, because now you're going to see this head kick in every Machado Garry promo until the end of time. It's you don't have to finish everyone to become a contender, but like Jed said, when you're trying to make waves, when you're trying to be a fresh face in a division that kind of needs some new blood, is pretty desperately in need of new blood, that's very marketable. You need these finishes that you can replay over and over again. So he's knocked out Jordan Williams, Song Kanan, Dan Rodriguez. That's a great reel right there. I agree he's not Shavkat. I really would love to see that fight. I mean, I think Shavkat, whatever, well, it would be a huge favorite and run through him. But I just like the idea of sometime in the future, you now have these young contenders. Maybe one of them's a champion by then, and then you have that. Like that's a great title fight. That to me is a great title fight, and that's cool. Again, given that we've had some of the same names in the top 5, 6, 7 headlining at welterweight for a while. New blood is always welcome. And Ian Machado Garry, we forgot to mention also a great nickname, The Future. One of those nicknames that I hope he never changes and just becomes more and more hilarious as he gets older. So I'm all in. That he was arguably, like we said, we gave him the best grade. You could argue his stock rose the most tonight as well.
100%. Oh, 100%. I can't give him an A plus. I can't give him an A either.
No.
I'm giving him an A plus. Like it's like right in the middle of an A.
Because the call out.
The call was bad. You gotta have the wherewithal to not drop a doo-doo pick on that stage. And he dropped a doo-doo pick. He called out Neil Magny, who's already booked to fight Phil Rowe in Jacksonville on June 24th. And I know there's some people who are bugging me on Twitter. Oh, it's still in June, all this. No. If Phil Rowe beats Neil Magny, then that call-out was for nothing because nobody will want to see that fight. And Phil Rowe will be the number 11th ranked welterweight in the world, and he will be above. The name was Kevin Holland. It was always Kevin Holland, and it still should be Kevin Holland.
A better name anyway.
That's the name.
Yeah,
that's the name. He will gain. And the arguments I kept getting from people was, well, Kevin's too much of a step up in competition. He's not ready for top 15 talent. He just knocked out a top 15 guy in the first round, a guy who was supposed to fight Kevin Holland a whole bunch of times. Like, the Kevin Holland fight makes all the sense in the world. I don't know who I would pick in that fight, but it's a damn good fight. And if he loses to Kevin Holland, like, does it kill him? No, it doesn't. But if he beats him, that's a huge win. That is it. A win over Kevin Holland is going to do way more than a win over Neil Magny in the eyes of fans.
Yeah,
and most other people.
Sure, the problem though with yes, in general, and certainly for Stardom probably is the problem, and it seems pretty clear. Gary's intention was to get into the top 10, and Kevin Holland's not ranked in the UFC's rankings, so he will now have a rankings. Kind of matters. Like I get what you're saying. I'm not saying it's wrong. But like it will matter to him that he, and in general does, that he is now a ranked fighter, undefeated, and will be putting his ranking on the line instead of taking any of the number of other dudes ahead of him who have been there for a while, and he can just move up because of his. I think he's trying to get to a title fight in 2 to 3 fights, and I don't know that Kevin Holland gets him there.
He's not getting those fights. He's not getting those fights ahead of him though. No, the fight's ahead of him. He's not getting those. He's not going to get those fights. I don't think. Right? He's not getting who's ahead of him. He's not getting like a Gilbert or like a.
No, he's not. That's way ahead. But Neil Magny's 11, and he's not going to get those. But Neil Magny's 11.
We already said,
he's certainly not going to get them from 15. But like, I think Vicente Luque would have been probably a better call out. Luque's not booked. Is
he is booked.
Oh, you guys know the booking way better.
But so is Magny. So that clearly didn't stop him. So I don't think he's aware of who is and who isn't booked. So that's not why.
I suspect that is the largest part to it. But he clearly just picked a name of a dude in the rankings because he wants to move up. Because in his mind, and I don't think this is unreasonable to be like, all right, I beat Magny. I now have a ranking. I move up to 11. Once I'm at 11, I can get myself, because of who I am, a fight with I don't know, somebody in the top 6.
Again, but
Shavkat is
which you would still get. Which you would still get if you beat Kevin Holland, by the way.
I'm not at all sure that that's true. Maybe it is.
Okay.
Holland has
only because
than some of these guys.
100 by a mile.
That's
what Mike is saying. Yeah.
And Ian Gary versus Kevin Holland. Ian Gary versus Kevin Holland is a fight night main event, possibly. That's a co-main event on a crowd card. That's a main card fight on a pay-per-view. That's probably that would be the featured bout, maybe the co-main event. Well, not the co-main event of UFC 289, but that would be a main card fight certainly at UFC 289. Ian Gary versus Neil Magny is not a pay-per-view main card fight. It just isn't. It might be a main card fight night fight. Maybe.
Oh, a main card. Come on, Mike. We're about to get Mackenzie Dern and Angela Hill for a fight night main event. Ian Gary versus Any's One Body can be a fight night main event.
Ian Gary just fought on the UFC Fight Pass prelims in his fight before this at UFC 285.
Sure.
But now he just fought on ABC, Mike.
Now he just fought on ABC and delivered a first-round knockout over a top 15.
I don't think it. Honestly, I don't think it matters.
Fight night main events are trash now.
When did UFC rankings matter so much? It only matters with this particular fight. It's so weird hearing some of the reactions
in general. They matter
you don't
in general.
Think, like, you don't think the voting panel?
They don't to me. I think that's dumb as shit. But they definitely matter. Colby Cummings is about to get a title fight almost exclusively because he still has a 2 next to his name. Like, they do matter. We want to believe that they don't because the panel's a joke. But it's like they are real. They're tangible. And if you give people numbers, they will treat them like they're real.
If Phil Rowe beats Neil Magny and then Ian Gary fought Kevin Holland and knocked out Kevin Holland, Ian Gary will be ranked higher than both of those guys. That panel would rank him higher than both Neil Magny and Phil Rowe. Unquestionably, they would rank him higher. So there you go. So what's the difference? If he's still going to be ranked higher than both of those guys?
Well, that's if Phil Rowe wins. If he doesn't,
If
I'm
Neil
not here
Magny
to tell you
beats-
that Neil Magny
if
was
Neil
the
Ma-
correct call out, but like
Right.
you're acting as if Kevin Holland was the only one, and it's a good fight and a fine one. Ton of other good fights for Ian Gary. Like he doesn't
Wonder
need
Boy would have
another
been a better
person.
one. Wonder Boy would have been
I
a
don't
better
think
name.
I don't think
I
Wonder
would
Boy.
have liked
Maybe
that
Wonder
better.
Boy takes that fight. You think
Yeah,
Wonder
it's
Boy
a
takes that fight?
striker fight. He would think about it. We don't know what's going on with Michel Pereira, but I think Wonder Boy would.
Oh wait, are they booked?
Ponder it. I would be a better call out.
Is Pereira Wonder Boy booked? Or is that rumor?
They're discussed. It's been discussed, and like people were reporting it was done for 289, but it was never done for 289, for multiple reasons. But so maybe they'll put those two guys back together. I don't know. I didn't love the Neil Magny call it. I'm not going to fault him too much. I'm still giving him above an A. He gets a 99, just doesn't get 100, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. That's fine. Listen, we can agree to disagree. But Kevin Holland was the right name, and I think he would have got a lot more headlines, a lot more buzz if had he called out Kevin Holland. Even if he doesn't get the fight, it's just a great call out for that moment. So
I won't lie to you. I also forgot that Kevin Holland ethered Ponzinibbio. The last thought in my head of Kevin Holland is him getting tuned up by Wonder Boy. I was like, I don't really know why we're doing this. He just got murked. I forgot that he killed Ponzi like last month or whatever. Too many fights these days, kids.
Way too many.
Yes.
They've done a very good job, I feel like, with Ian Machado Garry so far. I know, Mike, you didn't love the Song
really
Kanan
well
fight,
done,
and it was a high.
I didn't love the Song Kanan fight.
It was kind of a risky.
I loved this fight. Loved this.
This fight was excellent. They've really booked him the right way. Yeah, if they can get him a reasonable, someone now from somewhere from 11 to 15. It's going to keep chugging along. Or again, I'm not even against Kevin Holland's suggestion either. So they've done a really great job. Yeah.
I think Thompson could be answer.
It could be it.
I'm fine with that too.
Thompson is the nexus of higher ranked and name value that people recognize.
The only thing though is he's such a weird style matchup.
Oh, he might win,
and he
might win.
But while at the same time not advancing like his own stock, right? Which is.
No,
so I don't know.
His stock can't advance ever anymore.
He really can't.
Stephen Thompson's stock can't move, and like he exists now to be beaten by prospects. Like that's his role in MMA.
I don't love the Wonder Boy matchup, but on the road,
we'll see what happens. Great night for him. I think
that's the fight.
We spent more time. I mean, look, this is a successful day for Ian Gary. We've spent more time talking about him and his future prospects than Jailton Almeida's or
we're talking about it.
Johnny Walker's for sure. And Carlos Olberg and Alex Morono, who got finishes.
Way to go,
Great
Carlos.
Win for Matt Brown.
Way to do it for the people, Carlos.
Look, for the most part, the Johnny Walker Anthony Smith fight was not one we're all going to rush back and rewatch again. We're just not going to. It was a good performance for Johnny Walker. The main card was fun. The prelims ended really fun with the Matt Brown knockout. But Jed, prior to that Matt Brown knockout, these prelims were tough. Like Brian Battle, great win. Very impressed with Tainara Lisboa beating Jessica Rose Clark, who may not be long for this UFC world anymore. We had weird refereeing. We had all sorts of craziness. We
horrible
had
commentary.
Some bad commentary. Some bad commentary.
Really bad. It was really bad today.
Horrible.
And some just tough fights to watch. This is tough, Jed. This is tough. How would you grade the prelims, Jed? And what were your biggest takeaways from it? Because there were a lot of things we can nitpick here, not just from the commentary and the fights themselves, but just a lot of weirdness going on in the first of flight state. Was there not?
C-, like just passing, because Matt Brown's KO over Court McGee was delightful and just warms the heart. His post-fight speech was great. That was all great. And the openers were fun. Like you got Brian Battle doing the cool thing, Lisboa. But that little stretch, that 3-fight stretch in there of Mandy Baum, Kim Ji-young, or Keong Jim, DSA, Cody Stamen, and then the Carl Williams Chase Sherman fight, which I found delightful as a heavyweight overman, but not the best to watch. Certainly for other people not similarly invested. Really, really tough. Also just really, really frustrating, frankly, because the commentary was really, 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 really bad. The bomb kerfuffle, the referee actually mostly did very well. one major issue that I have with it, but on the whole, I think he handled things appropriately, and the commentary team roasting him because they don't know what the hell's going on is a really bad look and was very, very frustrating. And then the referee in the next fight does very bad, and they just like lump him together with the previous one. Like it was tough scenes, extremely awful in just about every respect, and real dumb, and shouldn't be. Like you would hope. We're 30 years in. We are 30 years into this, and things that should be pretty simple are still not. And it makes it all the worse when you're hearing Dominic Cruz and Daniel Cormier talk about something explosively and with confidence and just being dead wrong about it. And it makes it really hard to watch at points.
Yeah, I would love to have been seeing how John Anik was actually reacting to all of that. Because I think he's
he was jumping in with them on a couple of points. I was like, John, come on, man.
So here's obviously the big takeaway, AK. The Manny Boehm Jian Kim thing was just so weird, and it was like it was a disaster. I mean, that shit was a disaster. It was oddly compelling to watch it all play out because it just seemed like it took forever to come up with how it all played out. And then we get to the very next fight, and we get Douglas Silva de Andrade versus Cody Stamann. And as we first reported, Cody Stamann and his team, they're going to appeal this. Now, the reaction that I got when I tweeted this out was absolutely hilarious because clearly no one, I mean, Cody Stamann went on Instagram and was like, nah, I felt like I got robbed in that fight and I probably should have won. And I did see a couple people out there who did score the fight for Cody Stamann. I was not one of them the way that the fight played out. Like if the fight stays the way it was with how it all played out, I feel like Douglas Silva de Andrade won 2 of the rounds. He won the first 2 rounds. Cody Stamann won the third. There you go. But they're obviously not appealing the scorecards because why would you do that? That'll never work. What they are appealing is that Cody Stamann, whose bread and butter is wrestling and top position grappling when he can get it, gets a takedown on Douglas Silva de Andrade, is about to get top position and go to work, and he gets upkicked right in his face. So the referee correctly stops the action. So far, so good for this referee. And then the fight continues, and it is not back in the same position, which 1,000% the fight should have started with Douglas Silva de Andrade's back on the mat and Cody Stamann on top of him. Now, Cody didn't say anything, and even if he did at that point, I don't think anything would have changed because the fight had already been restarted. But that is what they're appealing. What they're appealing is an actual rule in the unified rules of MMA, which says if something like this happens, you can stop it, but it cannot sort of jeopardize the dominant position that the top fighter is in. And that's exactly what happened here. So they are going to appeal this based on that rule that is clearly defined in the unified rules of MMA. AK, a lot of people were kind of giggling and laughing that this is going to get appealed because none of these appeals work. But with this situation, not the scorecards, but this specific situation, do they have any chance of overturning this to a no contest? Any chance whatsoever?
Well, they have a better chance than if it was just a scorecard, right? But I don't know. Again, we would have to think. What's the last time a result was overturned, and for what reason? I'm trying. But besides
Chaz Skelly,
the no tap. They thought he's like, oh, he's unconscious, and that was success. And that was a long time ago.
And it took a long time to overturn.
A long time to overturn. But listen, that was a clear as day situation. And if we're saying that this situation is similar, but I think it's not though. It's not. It should be, but it's not. That was like the Chaz Skelly situation. That was the end of a fight. So there's like that. You can kind of review that moment and be like, well, clearly this doesn't happen. I think with the Stamann situation, there's a speculation like, yeah, maybe if we'd given him top position, he wouldn't have, we can't say that he would have been able to keep it for the rest of the round and win it. He probably would have. But it's not as clear as saying, well, obviously Bobby Moffett didn't tap out. He should. That's the only, like, it has to be so irrefutable for them to overturn anything that they can always pull well, we don't know what would have happened. Our referee, maybe the referee acted in error, but not to the point that we can go to the lengths of overturning a decision, because there's a lot that goes into that, right? I mean, it affects both fighters pretty significantly. Okay, I'm with you. I think they need to be much more proactive when it comes to overturning these things. I just think it's a slight, like we said, slightly better chance, but is it a good chance? I don't think it's anywhere near a good chance. But listen, if you're Stamen's team, you got to go for it, right? You got to go for it.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to overturn it. I disagree a little bit with some of the reasoning from AK in that I think you can credibly reason. You don't have to reason that he would have held top position. You can just reason that this did tangibly affect the fight, and thus we don't know what would have happened. And so we're not giving Cody Stamann a win. It's a no contest because the fight was credibly affected in a way that we can't really adjudicate an appropriate victor here. I think that's fine. I just don't. I agree in general, like the history is not on the side of Cody Stamann here. And while the rules are written in a way that it feels like he should have a chance here, they're also open-ended enough where like the texture of how things went about gives the commission an out to just be like, nope, that's not really it. The other difference is I don't have the North Carolina rules in front of me. I just have the like general ABC rules. And I'm not entirely sure which, like what, because everybody's running on different stuff. So like maybe in the North Carolina rules, I couldn't find them while you guys were talking. There's something like very specific here, but it's open-ended enough in the ABC rules. It's like there's an argument both ways, so they'll just default to whatever the ringside decision was at the time. So I think Stamann's kind of screwed here, but that sucks.
The wonderful Eric McGraken was actively tweeting out little weird North Carolina legalese things during the show. So guys, check out Eric McGraken on Twitter. One of them was funny. One was something like the commission will not allow fighters to compete. Like you're not allowed to be exclusive to a company like those. We won't allow those kinds of promotions to be here. And I'm like, that might be news to the UFC. Though I guess they're independent contractors technically, so I don't know. Maybe that's how they get around that. But yeah, there's apparently something in the North Carolina Commission doesn't like that those kind of practices. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, look. I mean, look. If there's anything, I'll get to you in a moment, Casey. Hold on, but real quick, and then I'll go to Casey. If there's one, look, maybe the momentum of the referee blunder overturn is a thing, because if you watched the Bellator Paris card, and I know these aren't the same things. Saul Rogers gets the submission win. There's no tap. There's nothing. The referee just comes in and stops it. And Saul Rogers is announced the winner of the fight. And then like 20 minutes later, Big John jumps back on the broadcast. So they went to instant replay. They looked at it and they overturned it. So maybe that snowball will continue to roll downhill and maybe Cody will catch a break. I don't think he will, but I definitely think it's worth taking a shot. And it's definitely worth putting the referee kind of on blast for making just a terrible call. This is a terrible call. It was very bad. Casey, go ahead.
Oh, quick question. And this is more of a rules thing. I was always told that actually, okay, the ref did mess up by not resetting him, but I was always told that
theoretically.
And if you don't,
I'm not 100% certain that that's a rule.
Okay, well,
but continue. Please continue.
I was always told that kick wasn't even illegal because it wasn't a kick. It was a push. If you put your foot on them and then push off them, that is completely legal. You're allowed to push off your opponent on their head on the grounded opponent. And that's why I'm trying to find the replay. I can't find the replay on it. But
right.
That's why I always had issues.
But if the ref allowed the kick and the fight continued, then that's not an issue. But he stopped the fight for the kick being an illegal kick. So
even though I thought the kick wasn't even illegal, but regardless, the ref thought it was illegal. And then did he just warn him? Is that what I was kind of? I got lost.
Yeah,
in it all.
He stopped it and gave Cody a little bit of time, and then let him know, like, dude, just chill out, and then that's it. And then they stood him back up for some weird reason.
I'm not entirely sure that according to the strict rules that's not right based on how that went down. So here's the thing. There's been a lot of talk of like, you're supposed to restart them. And that may be true. That is just not written into the rules. Or at least the current ABC rules that they have listed on their website is not written into those. You can imply that based on the thing you were talking about earlier, Mike, and I've got it right in front of me. But the rules read verbatim: if a bottom contestant commits a foul, unless the top contestant is injured, the fight shall continue so as not to jeopardize the top contestant's superior positioning at the time. That is open-ended.
Yeah.
It implies, but it doesn't state it. So like there is also a read of that is, okay, he committed the foul, but like a continuation in football, right? Like, okay, everything continues, but once the referee intervenes and says, stop, separate, take your time, recontinue, there isn't a specific thing that says fight restarts in position. So it's just open to interpretation, which is kind of my whole point in all of this. We've been doing this 30 years. Like it should not be hard to clearly elucidate rules and specifics, because the other part of this, like here, I once upon a time was an attorney. Laws can't cover everything, right? Like that's the whole thing. There are narrow corner cases. Everything gets real wonky when you get into it. But you have a whole pile of case law to build on, the actual like statutes that are written, and that's how the legal system works. You don't have that in fighting. There's not like, okay, well, we can go back to this where this happened. So you need to codify everything, and it's not that hard. The ABC rules are 13 pages. You can codify, you can use more words. Like you take 20 more minutes and write down all of the rules verbatim and very specific, and this will never be a problem ever again. It shouldn't be this hard, and yet somehow we're here.
There should be specific examples of situations. Like
Yeah,
this would be a great example.
Easy. Like it's all very dumb, and this is just the dumbest. This and intentional fouls are. I will never not lose my mind about the intentionality of fouling. Drives me insane.
Wow. All right.
Dude, the Mandy
let's
Bomb thing is the stupidest thing that's ever happened, guys.
All right,
It's so dumb.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk.
All right. That fight was
let's
the
vent.
longest
Let's
fight.
go.
That was the longest fight in the main.
Was that break?
It also was.
This between the third round, well, when the fight ended to the decision? How long was that?
It was a long time.
Forever.
Because they said
two commercial breaks.
Yeah, 2 breaks. Went through 2 breaks.
Yeah, they had already taken the cards away before the referee had said, oh, by the way, like he had to kind of tell, oh, I took a point. I took a point after I kind of waved it off, and then they had to give the cards back to the judges. And the judges, referee Larry Carter, by the way, the judges, have that whole tabulation process always takes a long time anyway. And now imagine them having to go back and kind of redo some stuff, and kind of they're also probably unclear on like, wait, why am I taking off a point? Like,
it shouldn't have happened anyway because it should have been DQ, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I thought it was a DQ, like you said. It is frustrating though that I guess he interpreted it as, again, whatever, unintentional or something, but it shouldn't be up to them, right?
There has never been an intentional foul in the history of this sport, because no referee has ever called a foul intentional, except for one time, Herb Dean with Piotr Jan, and he was dead right. And it's just it. Like,
I believe that was not. That was what's.
Was that not Herb? I thought it was Herb on that.
No, it was. Oh my god!
I guess
Michael Smith.
So I guess this is for Jed. So legality, when they say intentional versus unintentional, I assume when they say intentional or unintentional, that means they didn't intentionally do something illegal. Is that what they're trying to say?
So that is almost certainly what they are trying to say based on everything that has gone out. Here is where, again, you could use a word that isn't as vague as intentional. You can write an extra sentence to be specific about what you want, because my contention has always been that intentional is idiotic. Because they are intentionally, Kim intentionally threw that knee. She may not have intended it to hit Bomb in the head, but she intended to throw it. And that is the thing that should be the crux of the argument here. If I don't intend to shoot you, I am shooting my gun at a bullseye that I have in my yard. Okay, that is not malice murder if it goes through the bullseye and kills you because you're standing behind it. But I have also done wrong because I chose to do a thing that rendered harm and is not good. It does, like, she threw that knee. She knew what she was doing when she threw it. She didn't slip into kneeing her. She did it. And so if that is thrown with intent, that should merit, that is a foul. We treat it as a foul, but we don't treat it as a point deduction or whatever. And that's idiotic. If a fighter is intentionally trying to break the rules and throw an illegal strike, a la what Kim did after the end of the round when she struck her at the end of round 1 or 2, whichever one that is, the fight should be over immediately and the fighter should be suspended because she has committed malice murder in this instance, as opposed to negligent murder. The other one still warrants punishment, and a punishment isn't, hey, you did a bad thing. Like, don't you do that bad thing again. It's, hey, we're going to take a point. And if the fighter cannot continue, if the guy behind my bullseye died, I still go to jail because I negligently killed that dude. If you intentionally throw a strike and it leads to the fight not being able to move forward, that's a DQ. You are in control of your strikes. Do better. This should be the most simple thing to do, and it blows my mind where we're at with fouling in this sport.
Do you feel the same way about groin shots?
Yes. Feel all illegal strikes. If you are intentionally throwing a strike, you're in control of them. And then then the counter argument is always, well, then people will just look for that as an out. Like, sure, that's a real thing that happens. And you know what happens in that instance? The referee then becomes the adjudicator of whether that person's full of shit. They already adjudicate the intentionality of a strike, but in my scenario, the person who gets punished is the one who did the illegal thing, as opposed to, in the way we currently do things, the person who gets punished is the one who got fouled, who did nothing wrong and got fouled and is suffering a disadvantage for it. There's no reason. Be an adult. Don't commit fouls. Khabib Nurmagomedov committed like 2 fouls in a 30-fight career. You can do it. How many fouls has Demetrius Johnson committed in his career? It's not that hard to not. Sometimes it'll happen. Sometimes you'll throw a low kick and it'll slide up and that just goes on. But like this just has to stop. We've got to punish people for doing the dumb thing. Knees to ground head has been illegal for 30 years and they still happen all the time. Punish them, and let's be adults about this.
I think it's so weird you say that, but then they were legal last week just in Denver. But
so
I know, a whole different, stupider argument.
I understand.
In almost any pro sport, the less interpretation you allow the officials, the better off your sport's going to be. That's just how, like NBA. I mean, NBA is honestly, like, human wise, it's one of the worst officiated games on the planet. But the rules are solid, right? If you foul someone, you foul someone. There's no such thing, and there's no such thing as, well, I didn't mean to hit him in the arm. Well, you hit him in the arm. That's 2 free throws, or that's the ball back, or whatever.
Yeah, but it's not the game over. I think that's always the problem of MMA. Is like you foul someone, it's free throws. In MMA, you foul someone, game over.
But that's what Jed is. But that's what Jed is saying, though. It's actually so.
That's why it's
rarely,
so tough for refs. I think refs are in a very tough position.
But it's actually that's what Jed's saying, though. It's so rarely game over. If anything,
not always though.
If anything, the fight continues usually, and it's, as Jed said, it's the person who got hit that's at this disadvantage, right? So it actually doesn't end fights often enough. There aren't enough DQs or no contests. I think in a lot of these situations, like it's a crappy way for a fight to end. But
it shouldn't be tough on the refs. The refs have created the system, and that's not entirely, it didn't happen by accident, but like if the refs from day one just enforced the rules, then we'd be in that world where there's no interpretation, where we're not discussing this. The question is not, hey, did she intentionally throw that illegal knee? It's, she kneed her in the head. Okay. Like, got it. Now we're moving on in this. Like, it just take out the room for interpretation, because I have yet to hear a good reason other than a general argument of, oh, I feel weird if fights end because some guy got more points than the other one. Well, like, I don't know, that dude didn't cheat, so maybe he does deserve to win because he didn't cheat.
What did you feel
it's
about?
Not hard.
I don't know if you saw it, but did you see the Mousasi illegal knee?
I remember I watched that fight. That fight was awful, so I stopped watching it hard.
It completely changed the fight, though.
I cannot remember what happened, but like
he had Edwards on the cage. He was kneeing to the chest. Edwards blocked the knee. The knee deflected off. Musasi's knee deflected off Fabian's knee, and then he deflected into Fabian's head. And they basically put the fault on Mousasi for that, which completely changed the fight because the fight got stood up. Fabian. No, I'm not saying Mousasi would have won, but it did change the fight.
Yeah, but Yeah, there's
So
thing is,
is
there's
that-
always
is
going to
that a
be
massage-
it.
is that-
no,
is that-
but there's always
but-
going
but
to
it-
be
but it was a
there's always
deflection.
going to be hold on. There's always going to be freak occurrences, right? That's the thing is, but the problem is when those sort of indecisive moments become the norm. Like you're right, those things are always going to. And again, this is like I'm talking about a broader sense of sports. There's always going to be things that kind of like break the system, where it's like, okay, we made our system as best we can, but these bizarre situations are going to come up. So like the Musa situation, it's going to happen. It's going to no matter what your rule system is. That sort of weird thing is going to happen. There's just no way to adjudicate it properly. But can you avoid the majority of like misinterpretations and things like that? Like I think that's where we want to land. But you're right. Like that's something that there's no easy answer for that. I don't think there's an easy answer for that.
I think there's an easy answer for it. He threw the knee. He didn't have to throw the knee.
Right.
Yes, it got deflected, but that is
Right.
that is
But
the risk
that's on,
you are
that's on
assuming
Fabian.
by
That's on Fabian then.
no, the risk you are assuming by throwing a potentially illegal strike in that position is that something happens and it becomes illegal. You as a fighter have chosen that. He could have punched him. There's no illegal punch for that. Like that's
Hey, I just
they-
I don't like
I
that.
get
I mean,
it.
I know what
It's-
you're saying, but
it doesn't make you feel great all the time, but
Yeah.
also the end result, aside from the fact that knees to the head of ground opponent should be legal across the board, taking that aside,
Yeah.
if we accept that rule at face value, and I think that frankly that's a big part of this, is that a lot of the reason fans and refs and this has happened is because a lot of the enforcement are things that they kind of just don't agree with. And so they can't regulate away knees to the head, but they don't have to like take away points for it or whatever. If you are looking at this from a nuts and bolts standpoint, Mousasi landed intentionally through something. It was illegal. His opponent suffered for it. Fabian Edwards did nothing wrong. If two people did something and somewhere something wrong happened, Fabian Edwards did nothing wrong and Mousasi did something slightly wrong. He's the one who eats the punishment. I recognize that this is fully, almost certainly because of my legal background and that they drill this into your head in law school. But it just is what it is for me. Like, just take all of the guessing out of it and let's live in a better world.
Or you could do something like, I don't know, look at the fucking instant replay and judge it for yourself. Like, it's there. Look at the replay. Like if you're like, I'm not really sure, and you look at the replay and be like, sometimes, but not all the time. Like if you go,
we should
back
always
and look
bring
at
replay in. Firmly agree
Always.
with replay being involved.
Yeah.
Like on that knee, if you look at it and be like, oh, it's a deflection. Be like, all right, cool. Like Gegard, just be careful and just continue the fight in the same position or something. Like that's fine. Like I get that. But in certain instances, like just look at the fucking replay and go from there. Like if you're not sure, go look at it. Like every other sport. I'm watching the Celtics 76ers game the other day, and they call this clear path foul. I'm like, fuck that. That's not a clear path foul. And you know what they did, guys? The referees went to the replay, and then they showed the replay in the game. And I'm like, you know what? Gosh darn it, after 400 F-bombs in a row, that was a clear path foul, and the 76ers should absolutely be shooting 2 free throws right now. You want to know why? Because I just saw it on the instant replay. I wasn't sure watching it live, but damn it, when I saw that replay, I was like, yep, you know what? That's the correct call, and that's exactly what should be happening. So if you're not sure, just go watch the replay. Just go watch the replay, or have somebody there that you can consult. Just go find somebody you can consult. Be like, hey, what the hell just happened here? And they can be like, oh, this happened. Here, you want to see it? Sure, I would love to see it. And then you look at it, and then you can make your decision. But we don't even do that. We're not even trying to do that as these referees. And then, like, what can Dana White say about the situation? Of course, Dana was asked about it. Like, what's he supposed to say? Oh, we're never coming back to North Carolina again. You can only say, like, the sportsman thing. And I'm not blaming Dana for this. He's saying exactly what you should be saying. When we come to smaller markets, there's not a lot of fights here, and these guys don't have a lot of the experience that Vegas and some of these other places have. What is he supposed to say? North Carolina's a shitty state, and we're never coming back here? He's never going to say that. And he shouldn't say that. But this is a problem. Like, this is a problem. And most commissions, and I learned a lot about this when I was doing that piece on Texas, the promoters have no say. They have no say whatsoever on who judges or who referees. And they should have a say. They should have a say based on experience, especially for the UFC. They should have They should be able to choose from a pool who can referee which fights. If you want to throw out a local person, whatever. Like, let them deal with it in whatever way. You find the most experienced local person who has judged big opportunity, big fights. But for the most part, like, some of these refs I've never even heard of before. And they shouldn't be on the stage if they don't have that kind of experience. So, I don't know.
On the ref count, what did you say the ref's name for this one was?
Terry.
PK?
Well, I don't. Terry Smith, I think.
I don't think that was
For which fight?
For the
Larry Carter. Larry Carter and
Larry
Terry
Carter
Smith.
is the
That's
correct
the same
answer.
name. That's the same name. Larry Carter.
Larry Carter, Terry
It's
Smith.
literally not
same,
close enough.
Those aren't real names. You just made them up.
That's like Barry Jones.
That's like
it's the same thing.
That's like Anthony Smith. That's not a real name.
Smith. I could have said Anthony.
It's a fake name. Sean Brady. Sean Brady. It's fake name. I'll say that Terry Smith, Larry Carter did a good job. Mostly.
Yeah. And Wayne Spinola was the referee in the Douglas Silva, Dan Andrade, Cody Stamen fight.
And by the way, I want to put this, hopefully not cause more controversy and just put a positive cap on this. I at least feel like it's good that Mandy Bohm won.
Yes, she should have won.
Because
we got the right result.
Somehow,
even though we got the wholly wrong way to get there.
Some questionable first round scoring. I think the right person won. I think it's because I think it should have been a DQ in her favor. So she got a split decision.
She was
and
stalling.
She gets it. I don't know. But
somehow that's the rules. That's the rules. I get it. You play the rules.
She spiritually should not have won the fight.
Yes, completely.
Do the things, but should have DQ'd. Kim should actually be the one to appeal because I think she's got a way better chance of winning an appeal than
Let's
Cody
not get
Stamen.
into that. Let's not get into that again.
Like,
she's not.
What are you appealing on? What grounds? Well, they gave scorecards, and then a whole bunch of other stuff happened, and they gave more scorecards.
Please,
I appeal because the rules suck. The rules.
I appeal because chaos happened.
It's because the ref took that other point away, so they probably got a certain set of cards, and then they didn't realize. Yeah, and they didn't realize the other point got taken.
Again, arguably that was not the right move from the ref, but I'm still not certain that that's true because I can't find it in the rules because I looked into it. Like in my head, that actually totally makes sense. The timing was maybe a little off, but based on how the rules are, you stop the action and you take a point before the action restarts. The action never restarts, so he takes the point. So depending on if the timeline is, okay, well, the fight's over and then he takes the point way after, the timing's not great, but you're still getting to the right result. But also that could the rules might be totally written differently in North Carolina. And so it's all just weird. And that, to me, that's at least I'd take a stab at appealing that one. I'd just be this is obviously insane what happened. A very weird situation. I can't trust that the judges who rendered scorecards already didn't render the same thing just with an additional point taken away. Who knows? It's all chaos. No contest.
Casey, are there any other questions? Guys, are there any other questions? Please.
Yes. We'll take a
couple. About
more
this
10-8.
We just spent about as long talking about that fight as the fight went on. And that fight went on forever.
Yeah.
We did.
But yeah. But I guess the lesson is, and this has kind of worked since we threw this out there in October, we threw it to some of the fighters. We'll throw it to the referees and judges. Mostly the referees. Do the thing. Do the thing. Whatever you need to do to be as clear and concise as possible for making a major decision that can affect the lives and bank accounts of some of these fighters, do the thing. If the thing is looking at the replay to find out for sure, then look at the replay. If you need to ask a friend, ask a friend. Ask somebody with more experience. Dan Mergliata was chilling out there all night. If you need to get Big Dan out there, get Big Dan out there. Ask Marky Ratner. Ask Marky Mark. Marky Mark's got answers. Hell, he's there for a reason. What do you think? He's just sitting there? Use him. Use the man. He's sitting there right there. Cage side. Go talk to him. What else
Who reversed the decision yesterday in Bellator, the submission?
There was a reverse decision.
They did it. Yes. Do you want to know why?
Great.
Do you want to know why, Casey? Do you want to know why?
Replay?
Because they used instant replay. Because they went and looked at the replay, and then they overturned it to an contest.
Was it a Paris commission that did it? I don't. Okay, so it's a Paris commission.
I guess so. Yeah.
I know sometimes UFC regulates their own events. I wasn't sure if Bellator was regulating the event themselves. So, but
I have
regardless,
to imagine it's a Parisian commission.
Parisian Gray.
For
Yeah,
sure.
because
I have to guess that.
No, so good on them. The ref messed up, which is fine. Refs mess up; they're humans.
It's
And
a
the guy
That's a
was
hard
good
good,
ref
job.
too.
huh? He's a
That
good
was a
ref.
good ref too.
Good ref. He just messed up because his intentions were good. He thought the guy was out. It wasn't. A mess up. And then he came back and ref the rest of the fights too. It was fine. So I was just kind of curious who actually how that happened because I wasn't watching it live. I just kind of saw the stories on it and stuff.
Yeah, Big John just announced it, and then they said it was based on the instant replay. They looked at instant replay and overturned it as soon as they looked at it. So use replay, people. If you have replay at your disposal, use it. There's no shame in it. No shame in using it.
So we have lots of questions, but not too many on this card. I mean, I don't know if we want to talk about KSI or anything of that stuff, or do you just kind of want?
I mean, we have
I
our
can't. Talk about
resident
10-8
here.
I was
I
all
want
in
to talk
on
about
that
10-8
show.
rounds.
I was all in on.
Speaking
KSI.
of should people use instant replays? Not that there's probably an actual commission overseeing that Misfits boxing card, AK, but KSI probably should have got the old DQ, should he not? I mean, that is an elbow and a half.
How is that not over? Incredible form on that elbow, by the way. That was
perfect.
That was Lethway worthy. Joe Fournier did not see that elbow coming. He was probably expecting a punch. I don't,
Sucker.
I'm not. what a fool.
We're boxing.
What a bozo.
He was expecting maybe an uppercut or a little short shot, like some dirty boxing inside. He didn't see the full elbow coming through. And just cracking him. So
Dude, he got a good turn on it too. Like he
that was a really nice elbow.
Yeah. Art of 8.
He's throwing a few of those.
Wow.
He's
That's
throwing
how
a
you
few.
mix
that was a Matt
right
Brown elbow right there.
It
Speaking
was.
of Matt Brown.
Two big
Speaking of
winners
Matt Brown.
Damn.
What a segue,
can
Casey.
we talk about
way to
Matt
go.
Brown? Tied for most KOs in UFC history. The immortal is truly immortal. I mean,
Awesome.
how can you not love that?
Did he
kid?
submit a Hall of Fame spot tonight?
I mean, he probably did anyways.
Yeah, I would have hoped he had a spot in there anyway.
That's a good question, Casey. Let me look.
For a guy that's, for my recollection, was never even a top 5 welterweight. Maybe he broke top 10 at one point.
It's hard.
No, he was definitely top. He was definitely top 10.
Okay, so he did.
He had a title. He had a title eliminator fight with Robbie Lawler. Like
that was
he
that
never-
was Robbie Lawler. Okay, so
he never fought for the title, so that's a weird one. Because like Cerrone, people would say Cerrone never won one. He at least fought for the title.
I threw
Casey,
out.
I don't think he did.
Never.
I don't think he's got. I don't think he's got it.
Got what? The Hall of Fame.
A Hall of Fame spot. I don't think so.
Because I was
hard
going
to get in there.
I suggested.
It's
Okay,
not
I put Matt Brown and Jim Miller kind of the same level. Guys who fought forever. Lots of exciting wins, fan favorites.
Yeah.
Jim Miller never fought for a title. Would never fight for a title. Matt Brown would never fight for a title. They both lost their number 1 contender fights to eventually fight for that title. Are each of those guys Hall of Famers?
Jim Miller is for sure. Jim Miller is for sure. Matt Brown, I don't think so.
It's interesting though because Jim Miller's getting in because of a lot of records, right? I mean, so here's what Matt Brown has now. He has the tied for the if he gets the record for most knockouts, I feel like they're going to put him
one
in
of the
there.
coolest records you can have.
most finishes in their welterweight division, most welterweight appearances. So this was 30 after today. So he has not quite the same records that Jim Miller has, but he has some records. He has some records that'll matter to them. And most importantly, he's a company guy, right? Most importantly, he is. I think people have to remember the UFC Hall of Fame is still pretty young. Like how long? What induction class is this? Like it'll be how many years now? 10, are we 10? Are we even 10 years in? 10 years?
I think we're over 10.
Over 10?
Give me
There's
a second.
no
I want to
rules.
say
Yeah.
it's like 15. But give me.
Oh,
a
they
minute
started.
while
Oh,
you
okay,
keep
okay.
talking. They started in 03.
But you didn't do it every
So
year.
we're
They
at
used to not
20
do it every year.
years.
Yeah,
Sure.
But they used
but,
to not do it every year, right?
They didn't do it every year, but I mean, it's
No.
been consistently since 03. There was 05, 06, 08, like pretty consistent.
And unlike other Hall of Fames, like I don't think they have a rule of like a 5-year rule.
They don't have
whenever.
that, and they don't have like a min-max rule either.
we just put you in whenever we want to.
Wasn't
put you in, whenever
Faber
we
put
need
in the Hall of Fame and still fought? I mean,
Yes.
or in
BJ has also done that.
There have been a couple of Hall of Famers who
like
have
as
fought.
individuals, not as a fight. I'm talking about
Yeah.
as individuals.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
BJ.
Coleman and Couture fought each other as Hall of
there you go.
Famers.
Okay.
There you
I was that's so weird. I don't understand.
I think he will make it in. I think you'll see the bar eventually start to lower, and I think he will make it in.
It wouldn't shock me. I do think that there's a substantive difference between having the most fights in promotional history versus the most knockouts, particularly as that's like Jim Miller's is a record that's probably not going anywhere, considering he just keeps fighting. Like he's got a good chance to hold on to that. Whereas that the most KOs could fall like in the not terribly distant future. And if you look at his resume, the other like really the best way to make it into the hall for a guy like Matt Brown or whatever is to get in the fight wing, like to look at him and be
And I
like,
was gonna
that's
say,
definitely going to be a fight of the year, fight
like,
of the Hall of Fame worthy. And he
which
doesn't
one?
really have any of those.
No,
Like, you
Robbie
look at
Lawler
him,
maybe, but
I'm no, because that fight really it was fine, but it wasn't
It's
like
fine,
that
but,
great
yeah.
of a fight. I'm just
Barbarina fight's great, but it's not an all timer. It's
Yeah.
not an all timer.
and that would get
Exactly.
Barbarina in the Hall of Fame, which would just be amazing. I would love to see it.
I like
it.
the
It wouldn't
Eric
shock
Silva
me if he
fight
made it
was
in, but it
fun.
won't be for soon. Yeah, he had some
Silva
good ones.
fight's
Jordan Mean
fun.
fight's fun.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't shock me if he gets in, but it won't be soon. Like unless something. He also isn't retired yet. Like more things could happen and that could change. But at this moment in time, I would err on the side of him not being inducted in the next 10 years.
Whatever the ballots are, like 5 years, like he's gonna be the one that's gonna be like the fourth time around. Yeah, whatever.
He might be one of those guys who's perpetually like in the conversation because there are just a bunch of other dudes. Like in the not too distant future, Kamaru Usman's making it into the Hall of Fame, and Israel Adesanya is making it into the Hall of Fame, and just have more people coming in, and Charles Oliveira, like dudes who are locked in, and it just keeps pushing you down the list.
And you can open more wings too. Like you could do like the
Violence wing.
Yeah, they
violence
could.
wing or the,
they could totally shift.
That'd be a really good idea to get some people in there.
The overcoming adversity wing, the harrowing story wing, like all of these different things. Like you could throw him in there because he checks off a ton of those boxes if you add extra wings to.
Or Matt Brown can just be really happy to be a damn they were good fighter, and that's fine too. I mean, that's really a more impressive honor.
I think he'll make it. If I had to bet, I think he'll make it. I think he's getting in somehow. Yeah.
Question for Mr.
And
Heck.
I don't think it's crazy if he makes the fighter wing.
Question for Mr. Heck though. On the pre-fight Q&A, I talked a bit about Chase Sherman, and if he loses, he lost tonight.
He did.
But you insisted he will have another fight in the UFC. Do you still?
I do think he will have another fight. Yes, I do, and it's not.
Chase Sherman, real quick, is 4-11 in the UFC. I can't.
I understand.
That is incredibly bad.
But
that's even a generous way to phrase it, Casey.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
But
because you could just be like he's 2-9 in his last 11 fights in the UFC.
Yeah, I know.
That is very generous. But here's the reason why I think he'll be back. We're probably going to be writing an article in the next 10 days that includes Chase Sherman's name being given his future endeavors letter from the Ultimate Fighting Championship. However, there's going to be a murderous heavyweight that is going to need a fight at some point. That's going to have a fight booked on a card that really is going to need this murderous heavyweight. And this murderous heavyweight's opponent is going to fall out 5 days before the Saturday he is supposed to compete. And who is the first person they're going to call in an attempt to fill that spot? They're going to call Chase Sherman. You want to know why? Because he's going to say yes. He's going to show up, and he's going to be a minus 19. He's going to be like a plus 1250 underdog. But he doesn't care. He's still going to show up and fight and save the day. He is the Mighty Mouse, like not the Demetrius Johnson, but like the hero Mighty Mouse. Here I come to save the day of the heavyweight division. Chase Sherman is just going to say yes to every opportunity that he gets. So, yeah, I do think he will come back. It might not be right away, but I think within the next year he will fight again. I do for that specific purpose.
Future dependable wing of the Hall of Fame member Chase Sherman, the That Boy wing, That Boy wing.
Wherever Sam Alvey is in the Hall of Fame, Chase Sherman's
in there
in that same hall.
Sam Alvey's in there. Chase Sherman, absolutely. You got to get him in there.
BJ Penn's gonna be that hall also. He's in multiple halls.
Both halls, double inductee.
And one last question for me, because we didn't talk about him at all, and AK talked about this on Slack. Is Alex Morono good?
Yes,
it's a great question.
I knew what AK
really
meant when he said
question.
that, but
Yeah,
I was like,
I just like he sneaks up on you. Like it sneaks up on you, like how the record he's had recently, some of the wins he's got, some of his performances. Like he's not bad. He's kind of all right.
So
Chase
I saw.
Sherman's 4-11.
He's definitely
Chase
not
Sherman's-
bad. He's
Chase
not
Sherman's
bad.
4 and
Oh, no
11. Alex Morono is like flipped. He's 12-5. That's
12
He
and
has a
5.
very good record in the UFC. That is a very good record.
Wow.
and some good wins,
Yes.
like at
Yeah.
least by name. Maybe not actual good, but they look good.
Yeah,
I'm trying to find the tweet that like it was exactly what I was thinking when it came to this. There it is. If you guys follow Mac Malley on Twitter, which even if you don't, I'm sure you've seen his tweets. Alex Morono is like a Toyota Camry. Nothing flashy or anything to get worked up about,
Reliable.
but he gets you to work on time.
Just reliable.
That's a good tweet. By the way, we have a Toyota Camry. Toyota Camry is a great car. And I think it is a little more flashy than Mr. McMalley is giving it credit for. I think it is something to get worked about. A Corolla would have been a better example for the way he described it. So yeah, I think your Camry.
What year
is
is your Camry, Mike? That's the difference. Like, if we talking like a '93 Camry, because that thing's still out there running. Like, that thing is still getting you A to B.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
it just got handlebar windows. Alex Morono was the '93 Camry.
He still has a cassette. He has a cassette player still.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. If you want to plug in your phone,
And
you
it
gotta
works.
have the cassette to the aux cable.
he has one of
connect.
those cassettes with the
Roll the
cable
windows
that
down
goes out
for
to
AC.
your Discman. Yeah.
He's
The
old
back
reliable.
seat's like a
There's no
little
doubt about
cramped.
that.
Like, you can fit people in the back seat, but it's not comfortable. Just out there, just doing God's work.
Camry's very comfortable.
Like a '93 Camry.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't think I
Absolutely.
trust the interior room of the '93 Camry. I think the back seat's
It's not a
probably
Hyundai
a cramped
Elantra.
thing.
Casey, are there any other questions? Casey, are there any other questions? Casey,
Full size car.
what are we doing? What are we doing here?
You're thinking
More
of the
10-8
Corolla.
rounds. Maybe I've never been a Toyota guy, so I could be wrong here. Same though.
What else we got? Are we done? For the love of God,
We've got 90
hit
minutes.
literally
We've
everything.
got 90 minutes, gentlemen.
UFC Charlotte.
UFC 288 didn't get 90 minutes.
It's always these random cards you want to go for
This is
2
a more-
hours on.
A lot more interesting, weird shit happened on this card than it
If this is any indication, we might get 2 hours on UFC Vegas.
Let's keep
73
going.
next
Let's
week.
keep going.
I
Might be
will
2
have
hours.
a
I've got a
heart
lot
attack.
to say about Maheshate and Vyacheslav Borshev. That's all I'm saying. I've got a lot to say.
A lot to say. Just stay tuned.
Johnny Walker almost killed Anthony Smith, and he got 30-27s. There was not a 10-8 round when Anthony Smith
Ooh.
couldn't stand up by the end of that fight.
There was a 29-28 in there too, Jed.
I know.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. The lack of 10-8 rounds is so dumb.
Hold on, tell the people, what was MMA Fighting's official score for that fight?
30-25. It's 30-25 is the official score. Because he almost killed him in round 1, and then he did kill him in round 3. He just survived. Like,
I thought round 3 was definitely a 10-8. Nobody gave him 10-8. And no media
MMA
either.
Fighting sure did.
Yeah. God, great website. But I go MMA decisions and all these
Jed, your
losers.
score isn't there. Jed, your score is
yeah.
not there.
MMA decisions
I
is
don't know
scared to
why.
put our score up. They're
I
scared.
guess,
MMA
'cause-
decisions is scared.
Well, they usually put it attached to someone, so maybe they just didn't realize that I was the one doing it. But, like,
No, our score isn't there at all. It's just a bunch of 30-27s
Yeah.
and a bunch of.
I don't need to be on my soapbox, but
That's
my
fine.
my one statement here before we close is just, if you're telling me that rounds 3 and round 2 of that fight are worth the same, then that's dumb as shit. It's just dumb. Like, it's just very dumb to be like, I think Anthony Smith edged out round 2 and should get rewarded exactly the same
yeah.
as Johnny Walker, who made Anthony Smith not be able to fucking walk and cover up and, like, basically asked to be put down like an old dog. Like, they're just not the same rounds. Give that man a 10-8.
So you're here to change scoring for the better. You want things to change.
I don't even have to change scoring. In the rules, you can score that based on the
Jed,
current
there.
rule structure. They just don't do it.
Jed, they're playing you off. They're playing you off, Jed. The band is. You don't do.
I'm so
the
mad
Curb Your
about
Enthusiasm
all of the officiating stuff this week was terrible. Bad
Well-
reffing, bad judging, bad rules.
We'll put a bow on this. You'll hear it tomorrow morning. On to the next one. AK and I will matchmake. This was going to be one of the easier episodes because we've already sort of, at least for me, sort of kind of laid out the
no
framework.
friends forever tomorrow because I think we kind of cheated, Mike. I think we kind of cheated tonight.
Yeah, maybe we'll have our first friends forever wild card. I don't know. But
maybe.
So stay tuned for that on the podcast network. For AK, for Casey, for Jed, I am Mike Hack. Thank you for watching and or listening for the last 3.5 hours following UFC Charlotte. Good night, everybody.
Love y'all.
AK, I love your mustache.
Thank you.
It's a great mustache.
Great mustache.